Evet, hepiniz tekrar hoş geldiniz. Şimdiki oturumumuz İngilizce olarak devam edecek. O yüzden bize online olarak katılanlar dil çeviri kısmında Türkçe dinlemek istiyorlarsa Türkçe seçeneğini seçmeyi unutmayın. Welcome back everybody. In this session, Gleamer Studios CEO John and Game Developer Haojun will talk about how developers can solve problems similar to the ones Gleamer Studios encountered in their development process. So I'm inviting them to join us right now.
I will say something before we start.
Okay.
Arkadaşlar da isterlerse Zoom linkinden Discord kanalımızdan bağlanıp kulaklıkla Türkçe çevirisini dinleyebilirler. Şu anda Zoom'dan Türkçe çeviri yapılacak. İsterseniz İngilizce dinleyebilirsiniz, isterseniz Discord'unuzdan Zoom'a girip Zoom'dan direkt Türkçe çevirisini dinleyebilirsiniz. Evet. Yes, you can start.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm gonna share my screen first.
Okay.
So hello again, and my name is Haojun, and I'm the technical designer and project manager. And also we here have John. He's the lead designer and the founder of Gleamer Studio. So we are really happy to have this opportunity, and we wish could be on site. And this is an honor to be here and share our experience of developing settlement survival. So the original topic for today was, how did we solve the development problems? But after we finished the speech draft, we found out that we didn't really solve all the problems. So it is more like a story sharing about what problems we have encountered along the way. And so Settlement Survival is a city builder game. The early access version was released last year in October, and the rating has been very positive. If you know this genre quite well, you will react as, oh, this game is similar to Banished. We know this is a topic that we probably couldn't avoid. It is very important guide for us since the very beginning of the development. And Gleamer Studio was formed with 5 people in October 2019. We want to make PC game that is fun and also be able to support ourselves and our families. You have to know what you're aiming for. So picking the right genre and template is very crucial. And we can avoid a lot of design flaws as successful examples are there already. I would say that this is the most important stage of game development. Marketing research is more important than personal interest and passion. So we browse the top selling games on Steam Spy, and the principle of picking the right games are, first of all, it has a great download number. We took their number and divided by 20 to estimate that as our sales number. If you ask why 20, I would say that we also don't know, but we do need the number to estimate and make our business plan. So the second principle is that the developer stopped updating the game, and that means lots of fans of the game don't know where to go, and they're waiting for a new game that is better than the current one. And the third principle is, we are familiar with the genre, and our current development knowledge is enough to make such a game. So we had a few candidates, but eventually we picked the one that we think that looks most promising, which is Banished. We respect this game and also its players. Since day one, we've been trying to contact the developer of Banished and asking the Banished player community about what kind of changes they would like to have if we're going to make another game based on Banished. We have never planned on risking the game, but to make a game that stands on a giant's shoulder. We also did lots of researches about games that are similar to The Banished, and such as Kingdoms Reborn or Foundations, and we analyzed what is the most important fact to make them successful. So after we did tons of researches, we felt confident enough about what we are aiming for, and we started to build the studio. So the development began in March 2020. John borrowed $70,000 and officially formed the company with 5 people. Our office was a tiny box, just like most of the indie developers, and the size of the office was nothing compared to our passion. But as you can see, the topic of this page is you might lose someone. We do know that team member might not stay together forever, but we didn't expect it to happen right at the beginning. So we immediately had our first setback of morale. One of the developers decided to join a big company as it is more stable during COVID period and he needs a stable job to support his family. And we totally understand that. So due to the chaos that happened right at the beginning, the plan was interrupted. No one had time for making better arrangement. Many issues are waiting for solution. Everyone was super busy working overtime. For a big company, one person's leave probably won't cause a big problem, but as a team of 5, it was a big headache to deal with the lack of hands. We waited and finally recruited 2 more programmers in April. So what we learned from that is you might lose someone at any point of the development. And as indie developers, one thing you could prepare is that meet more people from the indie developer communities. And because luckily we formed a company, so it is a little bit easier to hire people. And so after we had enough helpers, we kept our development going. Everyone was in high spirits and trying to make our dream come true. But if you think that someone left the team was a big disaster, actually the real messy stage just started. We had no ideas about how important the project management is. When we faced thousands of tasks scattered in front of us, everyone only picked things that is urgent or they could do right away. But there was no plan or monthly schedule that was made. So everyone was exhausted. We need people to focus on development, but there were also issues like lack of funds, and there are so many company paperwork to deal with. And so we need to assign someone to handle these problems. So we let John disappear for 4 to 5 weeks to bring the bread back to us. However, the design decisions made during his absence weren't great. And after he came back, we had to redo lots of work, which we wish that we could have planned better. And as a result, the red flag was on after months of overtime. And after working relentlessly past a bad habit, John's pancreas went on a strike and he had to stay in hospital for a while. And another designer also diagnosed the early stage of cancer and he had to quit his job, but luckily he was recovered. So since then, we changed the overtime working culture and started to use project management tools. And so be prepared. Making a game doesn't mean that it is as simple as sitting down in front of the computer and open Unity. You will constantly facing financial problems, boring, dreadful company errands, and those are gonna take a lot of time. And so you have to sort out all the situation you might need to deal with and a plan ahead to make sure that everything is done in right order. And also make sure that you won't burn yourself out. After we slowly adjust to the new development pace, we get our prototype ready. We had our prototype ready in October. And there's a big game company in China called XD. Their CEO made a speech about don't borrow money, don't owe money, don't sell your houses, don't expect too much, and spend the investors' money. Investors have better recovery ability than you. So it is very heartwarming, and we agreed to that. So we were like, why not? And in the end, we got the money from XD. Yeah, and we do made a joke about our shareholder, but we pay a lot of respect to them. They are also our global publisher for our mobile version. But now when we think back, it was a really great opportunity to tell the media and publishers about our game when our prototype was out. But we only kept it within a few people who related to our project. It might be due to the Chinese culture that we try to be humble and only want to present things that we feel confident enough. However, we could have had a way larger fan base if we started asking for attention since day one. We could get a lot of feedbacks or encouragement along the way. But at that time, everyone was so obsessed with working on the game and imagine the game will have a feature of promoting itself. So we suggest that let the world know about what you're doing. The world is actually pretty nice to developers. You will receive love and support from players, media, and other platforms such as Steam. So we made the schedule, we had prototype, we planned on a releasing date. However, we also haven't resisted the temptation of adding more features in the game. We want this game to be awesome. However, we only added workload, but kept the deadline the same. No one said anything about, no, we cannot make it. So even though we have the passion and determination, we delayed the big one. We were 3 months behind our original plan. So what we can take away from this is that if you're going to add extra content to your game, take time and money into consideration. Expand your content with caution. Don't think that adding something wouldn't cost much. But thanks for not having announced our game to public. No one knows that we delayed. So maybe that's actually a good side of not telling anyone compared to other game company. So after months of extra work, we finally get ready for the beta test. And in March 2021, the game is getting close to complete and ready. We missed the Steam Next Fest in June, but we put the game on Steam as a playtest version and received lots of good feedback. If you don't know, you could count the feedback and calculate the review ratings by hand for the playtest version. And yes, as a small team, I don't believe that you guys will have a budget for a QA tester. So as we already infiltrated to the advantaged player community, we asked them to help to test our game. We send out 800 keys by hand, and we have 500 players in return. You could consider that we spend quite a lot for QA in that way. So we strongly suggest that all the testers at this stage should be players who knows about this kind of game. They could provide valuable insight and be able to play your game without a tutorial. It's way better to reach out to them instead of wasting time on explaining how everything works to someone who never played the city builders before. Another thing is that players might bring their ideas to you with emotions, either positive or negative. It is important to be able to evaluate their suggestions without affected by their feelings. So be subjective. And these players in the end reported thousands of bugs and feedback to us. And thanks to their help, we changed 80% of the contents by October. And some of them also put a lot of efforts and work in their game, such as they created our cute idol chicken. And we still keep close relationship to them. Some of them become our community administrator later. And luckily, the problem we had at the time was mainly related to game difficulties and the number settings. So we updated our test version madly, and tons of pushes were made every day during that time. And in autumn 2021, after we solved most of the bugs reported by our players, we started preparing for publishing. We talked to many publishers inside China. And in the end, we decided to publish on our own. And we put 30% of our development budget for this. We made this decision because we have enough people to work on reading news, talking to both, editing shop pages, and connecting to the player community. And if you ask me if you need a publisher, we don't have an answer. I would say that the function of a publisher is to sell your game. If you have the confidence, manpower, or sales talent, it's totally fine not to seek for a publisher. Otherwise, I would suggest you to at least talk to some of them. And finally, we reached to this stage. We are ready to show our game. And yay. After we decided to publish our own, we started putting out ads in September, and we tried to avoid releasing the game at the same date as some big release, such as Timberbone or Back 4 Blood. So we picked October 11th to release our EA version. But then it still collapsed with the Battlefield bundle sales. Another thing is that we were surprised with our performance of the Nest Fest in October. I would suggest you to join as many events held by Steam as you can. They also host sales events for games with different themes. If Steam hosts any meetings about upcoming events, I would suggest you to join those meetings, and you might receive very valuable insights from them. They will explain all the events and provide strategy. You can also ask questions directly in the meeting. One of the examples that worked for us was that the level of exposure on the Nest Fest depends largely on your game's performance data within the last 2 weeks. Also, the Steam work has lots of information provided related to promotions if you want to know. And after we release the game, we have been keep on updating our game, trying to improve the experience and increase our ratings. However, with the romantic imagination that the more we devote to our player, the better reviews we will get is delusional. Not all the players like them. We do question ourselves, are some new content updates necessary? And what will our player like? It is like a relationship, then how to maintain it it is really tricky. And from all the negative reviews, there was a large portion that were about bugs. Another lessons we have learned from this was that we didn't really use the Steam testing version feature. We could have the new updates branched out to be the alpha test version and waited for a few players to report the issues to us. And after the version gets stabilized, and then turned into the official version. So for now, we are still working on a few more big updates, and we're planning to release the official version in October this year. And that is the storyline we had with the development. And there are some other issues that we had, which is not that time sensitive. So the first one was about HDRP. While developing the game, we didn't really have many problems on the technical side. And thanks to our talented developers, we used the Unity to build the game. So as far as we know, there are only a few games that use the HDRP pipeline. The game has both URP and HDRP version. HDRP is relatively new, so it has some problems like crashing that we couldn't chase, and it raised the requirement for the hardware. Plus, there are many assets that didn't support HDRP. However, HDRP does provide us a beautiful night view in the game. And another problem was that we have mode support released too early. As we were still updating the game system, lots of mode made by the players couldn't be used anymore. And because of that, we lost a lot of modelers because it doesn't work anymore after we updated the game. And sorry about that. So that's the journey of our development of settlement survival. And we wouldn't say that we did everything right, but I hope this could give you some ideas about what kind of problems you might encounter when you're developing your own game, and you could have more options by that time. And thank you very much. So I think it's the Q&A section. And anyone?
Right now, we don't have any questions on the Q&A part. But we can get if there's any questions from the live audience.
Salondan sorusu olan var mı? Okay. Haojun, we don't have any questions from the hall as well. And
thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much for joining.
See you, bye.